Joining us on stage is the Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Business Officer, Corporate Flights and GCC at MakeMyTrip. Please welcome Mr. Rishi Singh. In conversation with co-founder and CEO at afaqs, Mr. Sreekant Khandekar. Mr. Khandekar is waiting for his well-deserved applause so that he can start his march towards the stage.
Yeah, hi. Okay. I have to say something about Make My Trip before I start my conversation with Rishi, which is that I have a special affection for Make My Trip because it was started around the same time as afaqs. Then it was called Agency Fax. And I'm pleased to tell you, afaqs is about 1 year older than Make My Trip.
Oh, super.
Yeah,
Cool.
okay.
Super.
So, and I must tell you another amazing thing about Make My Trip. I'm a great disbeliever in this whole thing about first mover advantage. In fact, I have found through my career that companies that come in first, especially in new sectors, tend to burn themselves. And companies that come much later are the ones which actually capitalize on whatever market has been created. I think Indigo is a classic example. I once measured, Indigo is the 16th airline in India, private airline in India. It was not the first, right? The whole bunch of them burned themselves and then Indigo came. But Make My Trip was the first to come and it still dominates the market. Although it is in a sector where everything has changed in 25 years, you know. I mean, it's dramatic how much has changed, but Make My Trip is still ahead and by a huge margin. And that's an incredible achievement, you know, to maintain leadership over 25, 27 years in a rapidly evolving landscape. It's just amazing. So I think now I'll get started.
Shrikant, thanks for your kind words.
No, but it's really amazing, I think. So you've been, Rishi, you've been with Make My Trip, I'm going to call it MMT for 7, 8 years now. Could you quickly tell me what is the, so as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I like to set a context first, you know, so you get a sense of where MMT has come, what has happened. So in the last 7, 8 years, how has MMT changed?
Shrikant, actually the last 7 years have been have been transformational for us in the real sense, because we kind of hit almost a near-death moment in the last 7 years. When COVID happened, travel actually became zero. So we survived 18 months of zero revenue, and we went into COVID more like a growth company. We were still burning money to get consumers on the platform, and we were necessarily a B2C company. So what we would do is that our play would be that that play in discretionary travel when people and mostly leisure. So in the 18 months when we were fully down, we actually reinvented Make My Trip to quite an extent. And when COVID receded and we came back, we aren't a B2C company. We aren't just a B2C company right now. We have a very large corporate business. We have a very large.
Could you explain what do you mean? You're still a B2C company, the way I see it. So
Yeah.
what do you mean by B2C company earlier as opposed to what? I mean,
Yeah. So see, B2C, which is leisure, is only, say, 60% of the travel that originates in India. 35% of the travel is people traveling for work. Like, uh, and the big difference is that when people travel for leisure, it's out of your pocket. When you're traveling for work, the company is paying for you. We had no play in that 36% of the market. Now we are market leaders in that segment as well. And then there are other side occasions like large group travel, something that we weren't playing in before. We've recently we built that play in-house, and we've recently bought a company called Flamingo as well to kind of go deeper in that market. So just from being one occasion out business, now we kind of cover every aspect of travel in India. So that's one. The second thing is that our play before COVID was still built on the fact that we will attract more consumers on the platform, which basically means a slightly more like a higher burn business. And on net economics, we were still a negative P&L business. We actually, when we came out of COVID, we had rethought our strategy on that how should we think about our consumer base? What should we do differently? In fact, the year after COVID, we were like a fully profitable EBITDA business, and we continue to do that. So we haven't like, for us, a 20% growth is a good number because India's GDP grows at 7-8%. Travel kind of grows 1.5x of that. So we think that if we are growing almost twice the growth of travel, we are doing a good job because we are then recruiting more consumers to book on us. So we have, without sacrificing that growth, we were able to turn around our growth algo from saying that how do we start building profitable growth on the platform?
I remember when we spoke last, when I interviewed you before, you mentioned that earlier MakeMyTrip had a very transactional attitude.
Absolutely.
You know, so you got a customer,
Yes.
and then in a sense you lost sight of him, and then again you acquired him, right,
Yes.
or her. And you have gone, but I want to ask you something about that, which is that in a business which is very transactional, in a sense, I want the best deal. Okay, we all look for the best deal, right, when we travel. So in a business where people are always looking for the best deal, it's true everywhere, but especially so in travel, how do you create a relationship which is more than transactional? I mean, this lifetime value of the customer, how do you actually realize it when people are always looking for the best deal? Why would they come back to you? Maybe I've got a better deal. They may leave you and come to me. So how do you do that?
Sreekant, it's the way we viewed our business. Like, we started as a flights booking, like we started as a business where you can book flights online. Then we moved on to selling hotels on the platform, and then later on bus and cabs. But we always thought that we are selling for that transaction, that when a consumer is searching for a flight, how does he consider MakeMyTrip? And then when he comes on our platform, he sees a great price and he converts. But the single unit on travel is not taking a flight, it is taking a trip, right? So when you are taking a trip, you need a flight, you need a hotel, you need a ground. Like if you're going outside India, then you need visa and you need Forex. So you aren't necessarily thinking that I'm taking a flight, you're booking one of the components that help you build your trip. Now, very similar that when you are kind of moving to a new home or you're building a new home, you aren't really buying cement, you're actually buying things that will build your home up. So we started thinking that, okay, like are we, like, because if we keep on being transactional in nature and we keep on thinking that we are there to sell a flight or a hotel when he wants it or when he's thinking about it, then our play becomes a pricing play that, okay, every transaction you have to win. So we started thinking that, okay, the least common unit is not a flight or a hotel or a cab, it's a trip. Can we start thinking about trips? Secondly, consumers behave differently. I mean, your travel need and my travel need, and at times even people who, because in digital marketing we keep on saying, okay, make hyper small cohorts. Even between a hyper cohort, people of the same age, same income, living in the same city, they think about travel and deals very differently. For someone, it'll be extremely important that he gets a good vanilla pricing. For another person, it will be important to get a premium economy seat at a good value. So the value, everyone wants value, but the definition of value changes. And the other,
Are you saying value is not necessarily the lowest price offered?
no, absolutely not. No, and we've also learned and realized this, that the definition of value is important, but the definition of value is very different for different people. And the other thing is,
Could you give me an example of how it might be different
Yeah.
for two sets of
so
customers?
there's someone who's saying that I'm a certain traveler, that I know that when I book my flight, I'm not going to miss that occasion, I'm going to travel. And then there are, and a lot of Indians are nervous travelers that I've booked something, but I don't want to book in advance. In fact, Indians book their travel around, like compared to similar economies or large economies, Indians book their travel at the lowest AP window. For example, in American plans for a summer vacation 6-7 months ago, in 6-7 months before, Europeans actually tend to kind of think about their vacation years in advance and they start booking. Indians book in a 15-day window, 7-day window. We actually book Europe in 7 days or 15 days. I mean, so that's how, and it basically comes from nervousness. We aren't very sure of the world around us, and hence for us, giving flexibility is value. So there can be a person who's, or there can be a trip where you're very certain, and okay, I'm going to travel, my dates are fixed. And there can be a trip when you are slightly nervous about the trip and say, okay, I want to book in advance because the pricing is high, but I don't know whether I can cancel my trip as well. And so, for example, what we did was using our own data science engine, we built products like ZeroCal. Like you can cancel your trip at zero cost whenever you want. Someone will value that top up far more, saying that, okay, I have a ZeroCal flight ticket. Someone will say, okay, no, I'm certain. Why don't you give me a good vanilla pricing?
Okay.
So the value equation changes.
So I want to ask you that, especially post-COVID, how has is the attitude of the young, of the first-time traveler, is it significantly different from, how important is travel in their list of priorities?
Yeah.
Have things changed a lot there?
See, thankfully for us, something changed in the Indian consumer's mind. Travel from being a discretionary category has become like a necessary category. And there are multiple macros around it as well. Sreekant, I think there has been some change in mindset in India post-COVID, where we don't realize it as much, but subconsciously we've become a slightly more experience-driven economy. People are saying that you live once, then why buy a house when you can spend the same money on experiences? So that there has been that shift, very subtle, but we absolutely can see that trend happening. The second thing is that India has also become richer. And when so right now there are around 35 million or 40 million Indian households that earn more than $10,000. And it's a very important, $10,000 is a very important landmark, because after that you start spending on discretionary products. Before that you are kind of spending only on basic categories. So, and that 40 odd million households is growing at a rapid pace. We expected another 30 million households get added to that category, that income bracket in the next 4 or 5 years. Because when you become rich, you spend and we do a lot of consumer work on that. When people have more money to spend, they start spending money on proactive healthcare. They start spending money on maybe a higher order electronics, eating, dining out, and travel. And travel for the younger generation, which, for the millennials, a very, very important generation for us, because they have both intent and the money to spend. For them, travel actually becomes the number one category that they start thinking and spending on.
Okay. Now I want to come to the specifics of the marketing a category such as this. As you gain size, how does it improve marketing efficiency? Is it only, is it just that you have now more customers coming to you, you get better deals with hotels because you can negotiate better, or is it something else? From the marketing point of view, when you have 200 people on your site or coming to you in whichever form instead of 100, how does that make marketing more efficient?
So Sreekant, one of the biggest changes, and for me personally as well, 4 or 5 years back, we would say that our largest challenge is that how do we grow on the base of consumers that we have. Correct. And we have a large base. We almost have 65-70% share of online travel in India. And I used to keep on thinking that on this traffic, and we have 100 million quarterly active users coming to us on the platform. How do I grow the top funnel? How do I get more people? Now, if we start getting fringe consumers, it becomes less cost effective. And today, it's been 4 or 5 years in this journey of rethinking marketing and rethinking how do we think. Now, I think our biggest advantage is the 100 million Indians who who search on us, not even shop, because only some part, there's a down funnel. Out of the 100 million users that come to us, only 25%, 30% shop with us in a year. Our biggest advantage is that we have search intent data captured meaningfully for 100 million Indians. And by the way, the number of people traveling in India in a quarter is 100 million. So we started thinking about marketing very differently. That you have everyone who's thinking about traveling in India is leaving signals on you. Can you read those signals well? And instead of spending money outside the platform, can you speak to them meaningfully on our own platform, using our own machine learning, forming our own intent engines. And it took us some time because I think today marketing cannot be done without a deeper understanding of technology. So it took us time to build our own MarTech engine, build our own CDP, build our own experience hub. But I feel it's one of the most fulfilling things that I have done is that today's scale is absolutely taking this company as an advantage, and we feel very confident that we don't really need to, I mean, we can constantly reduce our marketing cost. In fact, we have been doing that without either losing growth or relevance to India.
So as long as you can get, as long as all the people who search for travel, not even travel, as long as all the people or almost all the people who search for travel on India come to MakeMyTrip, you basically know about what their intent is, just as Google knows about the intent in other sectors, right?
Yeah.
And you build on that.
Absolutely.
So that is your universe, actually,
So
right?
Sreekant, like now we have built a very decently sized ad tech business, and when we sell ad tech to brands, what we tell them that if you're in a category on travel, for example, if you're a luggage brand or any brand where the traveler is important to you, we are much stronger on in-market signals than any other platform, including Google.
Including?
Google.
Including Google,
Yeah.
okay. You know, one thing I wanted to ask you is that what has been the impact now with the rise of platforms such as ChatGPT? People are now searching outside the Google ecosystem, right? So I want to look for something, I'm looking for a holiday in Goa, wherever else, etc. So in Google, you could trap it with your ads, etc. Does it bother you that people are searching for stuff outside the Google ecosystem now? Or is it that they're going to come to us anyway, it doesn't matter?
Sreekant, I think, are we bothered that people will move from Google to ChatGPT? The answer is absolutely no. I think it's good to have some competition, for Google to have some competition. See, the way we think about, there are roughly 1 million searches that happen daily on travel. Around 20 to 25% of those searches happen directly on us. So consumers do not go to Google or anywhere else, but they come directly to MakeMyTrip because we've become the protocol for search for a large part of India. So what we are bothered about is that the 20 to 25% searches that happen directly on us, how do we sustain it in the future? If the behavior of it, like for example, in the current mobile apps, the current mobile app is a 2x2, like it's a 2x2 landscape, has its own limitations. For example, if you have to, I mean, the way you kind of narrow down your search is by applying filters. But maybe in a more conversational format, those dimensions go away because you can chat on talk and write whatever you want. So the way we are thinking about it is that if consumer behavior is going to change, and tomorrow the consumer will feel more confident conversing rather than filtering, we should ensure that the same conversational UI is available on our platform. And we are very deeply entrenched in building Myra, which is our conversational platform. And the advantage that we have is that, in today's world, 60% of what an LLM answers to you is basically also AI written. So in some way, more and more content is not original. It is machine learned answers. The large advantage that platforms like us have, that our conversation can actually be grounded into human facts. Like, it can be derived from the reviews that we have got from real humans who have traveled to that location. So grounding of search is very important, and that's why, again, we feel confident that as long as we keep pace on UI and UX, we'll have the real content to answer correctly.
I want to move to the last space that I want to talk to you about. One is that how has your view on advertising and the media mix, how has it changed in the last 7-8 years? And lastly, there's this issue of transparency in advertising online, and there's been a recent controversy just yesterday, day before, involving, I think, Publicis and Trade Desk, right? So could you just tell me about how your view on ad spends and use of media has changed?
Sreekant, actually, as Anuradha was saying, that marketing is becoming a very, very difficult function to manage because things are, the velocity of change is like never before. So I think A is, if you ask me, that the one thing which is extremely important for marketers today is first principle thinking. Because, see, ultimately, no matter what category you're selling, and my previous experience before MakeMyTrip was selling Pepsi, you should only be bothered about two large matrices. One is mental availability of a brand. That how many people know that when they are going to ask for a cold drink, they're going to say, "Ki mujhe Pepsi de do." The second is physical availability. That at the moment of truth, when you are at a street and it's hot, there's a chilled bottle of Pepsi available. Now, no matter what the category is, this principle of physical availability and mental availability remains. And you should be very clear of your marketing spends. For example, for a brand like MakeMyTrip, our mental availability is that when you're thinking about travel, you think about MakeMyTrip and you think about, okay, can I search my travel on MakeMyTrip? And physical availability is that on your mobile phone, do you have a MakeMyTrip app? I mean, that's it. So what we do is we instead of thinking about funnel, instead of thinking about that multiple channels, should I do a CLM campaign or should I do like a retargeting campaign? We have started thinking, okay, the two large things is that we want to build equity in the consumer's mind, which basically means that wherever he is or she is, can we speak to her in a meaningful manner or him in a meaningful manner? Then that can be programmatic marketing. It can be a TV ad. And the second amount of spends is how do we ensure that the consumer has our app downloaded, because when he's thinking and when he's searching, we play a role in both ways. And we keep on challenging the entire ecosystem that if this is the outcome we want, then be transparent on how do we intend to do it, and then be transparent on how are you reaching the customer, and ultimately in today's world, the largest problem is that for mass ad placement, you need AI-led models. But at the same time, as marketers, you can't lose control over how the AI is placing your ad and at what context. Okay. So it's a double-edged kind of a thing, but.
And is your advertising very different in season and off season? Because you have clear, spikes and valleys, yeah, right? So is the nature of advertising different?
Because we do a lot of intent-led marketing, so we are actually kind of directly proportional to the intent size in the market. Okay. So I would not call it season or non-season. If the intent goes up, our marketing dollars will go up because there are more searches available, and vice versa.
Okay. And we just have a few minutes. So I want to come to this transparency part, in digital spends. There is always this thing, every now and then there's this eruption about, whether is this thing even honest enough? What kind of deals am I getting? As a marketer, what should marketers worry about when it comes to digital spends? Should they be careful about?
So the most important thing that we have to be very, very, very careful about is that do not go after false matrices. See, because and the reality of the landscape is that if there is a company which is distributing your ad digitally, they have to make money out of. And the way I'm not like, it's not pointing fingers. It's the reality of life.
Yeah, I get it.
The way you make money is by showing that your spends are you're being effective in the channel. So the dashboards that get published to you have to be. I mean, you need to think through that. What data do you want to see? Do you want to see a very high-level ROAS data and feel confident? Okay, I've done my maths and I've spent my money rightfully, or do you actually kind of get glued on to real consumer matrices and not just CPCs and CTRs and ROAS, because numbers can be manipulated, but consumers cannot be. So again, it's a tough thing, but we'll have to build our own matrices as well. That how did a consumer behave, or how did a large cohorts of consumers behave with you when you spend the money and not get too kind of seduced by seeing performance matrices and feel happy about it. Performance matrices, I mean, okay, in the old economy term, a consumer matrix is that, do you see your equity going up? Do you see people engaging with your brand more? A performance matrix is that, is your media plan optimized? So we cannot kind of just think about our media plan being optimized because that will not, if supposing you run a campaign like on every 6 that in IPL, every 6 you hit, you get six my cash on MakeMyTrip. Supposing the opposing team hits that 6, you don't feel so you don't feel so contextually nice about that. So how do you get more contextual, more relevant, and keep a consumer out approach as you kind of optimize media planning?
Okay, and you also saying you're like I think Anuradha mentioned earlier. If I remember you saying that you also given up this thing about top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel. You also gone off that. Is that right?
Absolutely, Sreekant. Funnel is being made by advertisers to spend money on all parts of it. I think, and also what happens is when you look at a funnel approach, the same, like I'm a consumer, there's someone who's spending top funnel money on you, there's someone who's spending mid funnel money on you, and then someone who's spending, ultimately I'm seeing 16, 17 times MakeMyTrip telling me different things. I would say you have to keep the consumer first and say, okay, the consumer needs to see my message 7, 8 times, and depending upon what I'm trying to do, it can be a hard-hitting tactical message saying that, okay, if I know that you are someone who's really into, okay, ultimately top funnel, mid funnel, and lower funnel are consumer mind states. There's a consumer who's in the inspiration stage that he's thinking, okay, summer is coming, but I don't know what to do. There's another guy who's saying, okay, summer is coming, I know where to go, but I just want to know how do I go there. And there's a third guy who also knows how to go. So the how to go guy, you should give him maybe a good pricing deal. Okay. The where to go guy, you should solve his problem saying that the best way of flying to Europe is to take a Lufthansa flight. And the top guy, you should say that summer is coming, Europe is waiting for you.
Yeah.
So
Great. I think, thank you very much. I think we run out of time. Thank you, audience. I hope you found Rishi's insights on the travel business. And I think this could apply to other businesses also. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Sreekant. Thank you very much.